Zarthok had fought in 300 campaigns across the Spiral Arm. He had seen empires crumble and stars die, but he had never seen anything like the humans. The evacuation of Meridian Station was supposed to be a calculated retreat before the Void Swarm consumed another outpost. The Galactic Council had already written off the station and its 5,000 inhabitants. Standard protocol: withdraw valuable assets, leave the rest. But humans didn't follow standard protocol. Zarthok watched from his tactical display as human soldiers refused the final transport. Caroline Martinez, a combat medic with fire-red hair, and Patrick Chen, an engineer with prosthetic legs that glowed with blue circuitry. They stood on the loading dock as the last council ships departed. "Command, this is Martinez." Caroline's voice crackled through the cum. "We've got 14 civilians trapped in Sector 7. The support structure collapsed. We're not leaving them." "Negative, Martinez," the Valdorian commander responded. "The swarm will breach in 20 minutes. You have no weapons, no support, and no time. Stand down." Patrick's laugh echoed through the channel. "Yeah, we've heard that before." Zarthok had heard stories about human stubbornness. The galaxy called it foolishness. But something made him reverse his fighter's trajectory. Perhaps it was curiosity. Perhaps it was the memory of ancient texts that spoke of humans as the favored, children of gods who had long ago vanished. He landed his craft on the crumbling dock just as Caroline and Patrick were loading a makeshift cutting laser onto a hovercart. "You're staying?" Zarthok asked, his 4 eyes blinking in astonishment. Caroline didn't look up. 14 people, kids included. "You in or out?" No request for assistance. No gratitude for his return. Just a simple question that somehow carried the weight of judgment. Zarthok had commanded fleets. He wore the crystal star of valor. But this human medic made him feel small. "I'm in," he heard himself say. They reached Sector 7 with 12 minutes until breach. The collapsed corridor was a twisted nightmare of metal and composite materials. Behind 3 meters of debris, life signs flickered. "The structure's unstable," Zarthok warned. "If we cut through, the whole section could collapse. Then we better be quick." Patrick was already assembling a support frame from cargo struts and emergency sealant. His prosthetic legs hissed as he worked, moving with precision that would shame any combat engineer. Caroline pulled out a medical scanner. "For adults, 10 children. 2 are injured. They've got maybe 30 minutes of oxygen." "We have 12 minutes, Zarthok reminded them. "Then we work faster." Caroline's eyes met his, and Zarthok understood why his ancestors had feared humans. It wasn't their technology or their weapons. It was this absolute refusal to accept the impossible. Patrick's frame was crude but brilliant, each strut precisely placed to redistribute the weight as they cut. Caroline coordinated her combat medical training, adapting to engineering problems with frightening ease. And Zarthok found himself working harder than he had in years, driven by something he couldn't name. The Void Swarm reached the outer hull at minute 9. The station shuddered. Reality itself seemed to crack as the swarm's entropy weapons began their work. In the distance, screaming metal and collapsing decks announced the beginning of the end. "Keep cutting," Patrick shouted over the noise. At minute 11, they broke through. 14 faces, terrified, grateful, alive, stared back at them. Caroline was through the gap instantly, her medkit already open, assessing injuries with practiced speed. "Everyone who can walk, move now," she commanded. "Patrick, get those kids." They ran. The station was dying around them, corridors folding into themselves as the swarm consumed the fundamental laws of physics. Patrick carried 3 children, his prosthetics overclocked beyond safety limits. Caroline had a wounded Centaurian over her shoulders. Zarthok found himself with 2 kids clinging to his carapace, trusting this alien warrior completely. The dock was collapsing. Zarthok's fighter could hold maybe 8 people. There were 17 of them. "Get them in," Caroline yelled. "The weight," Zarthok began. "I said get them in." Patrick was already stripping panels from the cargo bay, throwing out everything non-essential. Emergency rations, backup batteries, even the secondary weapons systems. "She-fly," he muttered, more prayer than engineering assessment. They crammed in, bodies pressed against bodies, species who had never trusted each other holding on together. Zarthok fired the engines as the dock disintegrated beneath them. The fighter screamed. Every alarm blared. The frame groaned under impossible weight. They should have died, but Patrick's hands flew across the engineering console, rerouting power, balancing loads, doing things with the ship's systems that should have been impossible. And Caroline kept everyone calm, her voice steady even as reality warped around them. They cleared the swarm's effect radius with seconds to spare. Later, on the council rescue ship, A Valdorian admiral approached Zarthok. You violated direct orders. You risked a valuable fighter for 14 civilians. Before Zarthok could respond, Caroline stepped forward. Her uniform was torn, her face was covered in soot, but her eyes were clear. 17, she corrected. We saved 17 people, and we'd do it again. The admiral's scales flushed with irritation. Such recklessness is why gods fear us, Patrick interrupted, his arm around a sleeping child. Right? Zarthok felt something ancient stir in his memory. Sacred texts, forbidden histories, stories of humans who had stormed the very halls of heaven, who had looked at divine proclamations of fate and said simply, no. The gods had created races to serve them, but they had created humans too well, given them too much will, too much courage, too much audacity to look at the impossible and see only a challenge, so the gods had left, retreating to higher dimensions, perhaps in fear, perhaps in pride at their greatest creation. Zarthok looked at Caroline and Patrick battered, already checking on the others, and understood. The galaxy had calculations for acceptable losses. It had protocols for rational retreat. It had 1,000 reasons why some sacrifices were necessary. But humans had something the galaxy had forgotten, the stubborn, magnificent refusal to leave anyone behind. Yes, Zarthok said quietly. That's exactly why the rescue ship jumped to hyperspace. Zarthok made a decision. He would file his report, but he would also do something else. He would add his name to the growing list of aliens who fought beside humans. Because if gods feared them, perhaps the rest of the galaxy should learn to trust them instead. After all, anyone who could make the impossible merely difficult was exactly the kind of ally the universe needed.